Welcome to the Full FX Unfiltered, this edition in association with Lucera. And I'm delighted to be joined by my friend Al Crane, who is Head of Customer Relationship Management at Lucera. Al, for reasons that certain of us know, you weren't able to join us in Stockholm.
And I apologise.
But well, you should. It was a broken neck. I mean, seriously, who does that? What I'd like to talk to you about is some of the things we brought up there, which I think are quite pertinent to Lucera. Now, obviously, you guys have been mainly known for working with banks and the brokers of the world.
Yeah.
But the connectivity issue, the complexity, is something that stretches across all the borders, isn't it? Is that something you're seeing?
Yeah, very much so. I think it's worth pointing out, I mean, we've got a couple of different products, and the Loom FX product in terms of connectivity and normalization comes included with the physical connectivity element underneath it. So actually there's a far broader segment of clients that have used that, and that's actually where the company started 11 or 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So lots of physical connectivity, which is product agnostic, and then the Loom FX product and some of the other products sit on top of that. So you've got physical connectivity and API normalization.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of maybe clients from the buy side, or traditional buy side, should we say?
Yeah.
It's all getting mixed up nowadays. But yeah, those sort of clients, I mean, what kind of challenges are they facing?
Well, I think there's a realization amongst that part of the market more and more that they want to be more in control of the way they access data, the subsets of data that they're interested in, what they want to look at, and being able to be in control of their own destiny in terms of how they consume that data, the format that they consume it in, rather than being, maybe multiple single bank products, which is all great, and we're very well serviced in that space.
Yep.
And a lot of them access both traditional execution pricing on there, but also Algos. But if you go to the multi-bank model, which we know has obviously been, enormously successful over a long period of time now, but they get everything they get delivered in the format that person wants to deliver it in. Now, there's obviously customized workflows in there,
yes.
and the bigger buy-side guys in particular will clearly have a big influence on how that's delivered. But I think more and more people are come to the realization that they want to be in control of their own data, how it's delivered, when it's delivered, what's delivered, and then being able to make their own execution decisions and analytics and so on based on that data. So I think there's a realization that even though traditionally they get given everything for free by the sell side, all the multi-bank channels and so on, I think some of them are realizing now that it's a good policy to take control of that and take a bit of responsibility for it, and therefore have control over exactly how it's delivered.
Yeah. So obviously this is a new segment, but a familiar challenge. How are you innovating to actually help these clients and I guess your existing clients rise to these challenges?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, we've got the product is extremely configurable, and what that means is it enables people to see a bit about how that data is delivered in its traditional form, but then most of our product development is based on a client saying, "Oh, I like that, but could you do it like this?" Or there's a new widget come from this particular venue or that provider. Can you please, give me access to that data, or can you put it in this field or present it in this format? And they're the things that, by having that access to the full set of data, we do an awful lot of customization, and a lot of it ends up in the product, of course, the standard product we deliver, so everybody gets the benefit of it. That's not always the case. Some people, are very specifically, I want that, and I want that just for me, and we're happy to have those conversations as well. But there's definitely a lot of customization involved, and the buy side guys have a very different view of what they want and how they want to look at it to the traditional, sell side or broker dealer space and so on.
So I mean, obviously there's complexity there for your business because you've got people slicing and dicing. How important is flexibility? I mean, is it
very much so.
Yeah.
I think flexibility's always been important, of course, and people don't want to, I think, be committed to everything done in a certain way and a one size fits all.
Yeah.
And there's two elements to that. There's the way that the actual data or product is delivered to their systems or their desktops or whatever it happens to be. But there's also the sort of the commercial model around, okay, that's a new channel, I want to try that. and see if it works for my style of business. And so many people love the fact that they can sort of try it without the big lift in terms of integration or long-term costs and long-term contracts to do that stuff, and get involved in a market, try it out. Does that work for me? Does it suit my style? Does the guy at the other end like my flow? You know, remember, all flow is not equal.
Yes.
So you get the opportunity to make sure that you've got a nice marriage there that really works for both sides. And if you don't, that's all right. You turn it off and you go, or you tweak it, or you do whatever you need to do to make that a successful partnership. And if it does, lovely, leave it be. And if it doesn't, okay, well, we tried that one, let's try a different one.
Yeah. And I guess that the first word that sprung to mind when you said trying out new channels is Algos.
Absolutely.
Now, obviously, that's kind of added another layer of complexity to the whole thing, isn't it? Because before, I guess it was execution data, but now it's like, or liquidity data, now it's execution algos as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are seeing more and more interest in, whereas you used to take a set of prices from, you know, the traditional set of liquidity providers, and they, of course, you know, always used to be banks, and now they're non-banks and all sorts of other players in their exchanges and ECNs and so on. But more and more now we're seeing people saying, okay, I want to actually have a set of algorithms from multiple banks. So you're sort of having this sort of, you know, comparison website almost sort of thing. So, okay, I like this algo for that particular currency at this time of day, for that, you know, strategy or whatever it is, and normalizing all that stuff, and again abstracting yourself from all the technology, you know, integration challenges that come with integrating with that stuff, and you just get the output of it as a you know, either a buy side guy or, you know, others are in that space as well.
I think the panel in Stockholm we called Unraveling the Spaghetti or something like that. And I was inspired by the former Chief Dealer of the Bank of England, Martin Hammer, who gave a presentation at a P&L event years ago, talking about the spaghetti of liquidity and the connectivity. That was in 2003-04. I don't think you wouldn't recognise it nowadays in terms of complexity. So if we assume that complexity is always going to be increasing, is the tech always running to catch up, or can you get in front of it?
I think there's a great degree of just an ongoing evolution, right?
Yeah.
And it's impossible, obviously, as you know, we sit in the middle of all this stuff and you know, obviously do our best to be, you know, right up to it. We, you know, the model that we adopt is we don't do anything on spec. We do it when a customer asks for it. So, you know, in that respect, we're always, you know, behind to some extent.
Yeah.
But you know, certainly some of the bigger channels in particular would engage with us and make sure that we sort of have a heads up early on in the process to say, by the way, we're going to be updating our specification on, you know, maybe fix or a binary API or whatever it happens to be, and we'll make sure that we, you know, stay, you know, ready for when it's needed. But you're absolutely right. I mean, we're constantly. We're not short of things to do, put it that way.
And I guess then, I mean, the important thing then is, in such an environment to me, is to be nimble and to be able to move fairly quickly. Yeah, absolutely. But it's more than, you know, banging a spec out quickly. It's really a case of understanding what's going on and what the expectation is, both from a user perspective as well as the venue or, you know, whoever's on the other side, the maker or taker perspective. And so we spend a lot of time making sure we understand the business workflow and what they're trying to achieve, rather than just, oh, there's a new spec, knock it out. There's a huge amount of product work that goes into that to make sure that we are, you know, not just doing bits and bytes. We're understanding what we're trying to achieve here. And that's interesting. I mean, look, I guess what I'd like to close out on is one of my favourite questions to ask everyone that I can is, I mean, obviously, you're dealing there with more than just a connectivity solution. You're dealing with workflow solutions. You're dealing with actually embedding yourself in the trade process of both LP and client. At the moment, it's historically largely spot. How repeatable is the model for instance, FX swaps or FX options?
Well, interesting. I mean, as you rightly point out, everything kind of started with spot, because you know, it's kind of the lowest common denominator, and you know, we've got oodles of those. What you generally find is all these additional products sit on top of spot, and they're an incremental build. what we are seeing now is sort of almost going back to the start in terms of evolution, where you went from spot used to be RFQ back in, if you're old enough to remember that, and then it went to streaming. I know you are.
I was going to say.
Then it went to streaming and oh no, I'm not interested in RFQ, and now it's sort of gone back to, it's not really RFQ anymore, it's RFS as it's known.
Yes.
And you're getting a lot more engagement for non-spot products, which tend to be, RFS more in nature, simply because a lot of people don't want to expose their entire forward curve, for example, systematically, as you can imagine that people wouldn't want to do that. So there's definitely new protocols and new technologies sort of evolving as different products come to the fore. I mean, we've been talking about swaps for a long time, and I know now actually we're seeing a bit more traction, and I think there's a couple of factors that are driving that. I think there's a couple of platforms which are making some really good strides, and sort of coming to grips with the credit side of that challenge, which has always been one of the barriers. But I think there's also a people element to that. There's people have been in that space for a long time. It's not broke, don't fix it, leave it be. And I think more of those are sort of evolving out of that space. And you're getting the guys who did spot years ago and are probably thinking, well, we can do that to swaps now as well. So now we're engaging with those guys, and you're almost re-engaging with those people that did spot years ago and are now looking for swaps. And NDFs was a big one. NDFs really, I think, were a really big boost last year. New platforms coming in, volumes going up on the existing platforms. Even crypto to a certain extent, obviously, has had its challenges. I would say, the last 6 or 8 months.
Nice understatement.
But we saw a big surge in interest in that, and we've certainly done a lot of implementations and integrated to a lot of marketplaces. That sort of calmed down a bit as the sort of banking system and the clearing elements of that all sort of got a bit clogged up with a few banks disappearing. People are now coming to terms with that again. So you've got that sort of element as well, which new technology challenges. Ironically, the crypto crowd, don't fix a lot of them. They seem to want to do other technologies, which is fine. But it's doing new technology and
it's the complexity and the challenge.
Exactly. Exactly.
The other thing I'm wondering is RFQ. Where would Telex sit in that queue? It's a long way back. Probably 3 or 4 iterations back. Yeah. I am old. Al, great to talk to you as ever.
Good to see you.
Thanks very much for watching the Full FX Unfiltered with Lucera. We'll see you again soon.